So this is the second session, but if you weren't here for the first one, don't worry, because they're aimed to be quite standalone. So don't feel that, oh no, you've missed out on something essential. And then the good news is that we've kind of top and tailed it and taken out this preamble at the beginning, and so that'll be online soon. So you can always go back and watch that as well. So we're just going to have a little chat about the activities that we set at the end of session one. And then we're going to be focusing on how to make best use of time and money. So sometimes with social media, you can think, oh, so many things to do and I don't know where to spend my time and all of that. So we've got some ideas for you there. Tools, so always an interesting discussion there. And Marissa is such a whiz at these things. She's always trying out new apps and new techniques and that kind of thing. So we've got lots of advice there for you. And then looking at easy ways to increase engagement. So if you find, oh, you've been posting away on social media for ages and you're not really getting any comments and likes and shares, then we've got some easy tips for you there. And then at the end, we'll have a few more kind of, commitments to what actions you can take afterwards and time for questions as well. But like I say, we'll answer questions as we go as well. Section 1. So we're thinking about where you should focus your time and money, because everyone's busy. So it's worth thinking about, well, where are you actually going to focus your resources? And so first of all, we're going to talk about platforms. Rather pleasingly, everything begins with P. Planning and photography and promotions as well, which is the paid social media activity. And one thing that we think ourselves as a business, but I also saw when we looked around what Huntingdonshire businesses were doing, we saw this in action as well. So the idea that you pick a few platforms and just really focus on doing them well is a good way to go. So take the pressure off yourself. Don't worry, TikTok comes along, oh, you've got to be on TikTok and you've got to have an amazing YouTube channel and you've got to be here and there. You don't have to, and it can actually be better for you to just focus on a couple of platforms, really get to know them, really start enjoying them as well, so it's not a chore, and get familiar with the features and different ways of doing it for you. So Instagram, there might be a particular way that you like writing text on the screen, or a particular filter that you use, for example. So don't worry about being everywhere all the time. But one thing it's worth bearing in mind is where your audience is. So if you are in retail, you're in food, you're in sport, that kind of thing, then Facebook, Instagram are great. Whereas if you're professional services, then you might want to have LinkedIn as your main channel, and then Instagram is a kind of a complement to show the places that you go to when you're out and about and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, so like I say, we saw this in action looking around the different social media accounts. So Little Acre Kitchen, for example, they're really good on Instagram. And so they don't just post in the main feed, they also do reels and stories. So they're getting to know the different features, the different component parts. And these social media platforms do keep on bringing out new features. So if you focus more closely in on one or two platforms, then it allows you to keep up. Otherwise it can feel a little bit overwhelming. And the second thing is about planning. And everyone's got a quiet moment each week, perhaps. Maybe if you're a shop and you're closed on Monday, then that might be a good time for you. Or maybe a Saturday evening. So, we're not exactly going out Saturday nights at the moment. But it's funny that if you put time aside to plan, it actually saves you time in the long run. So think about what type of content you'll post, what you won't post about. So, for example, Twitter, for me, I could quite happily talk about politics all day and get all riled up and angry. But generally, if I talk about politics, it tends to be with a communications angle. So I might talk about how politicians communicate rather than how I might vote, what my actual political viewpoints are. So I always think it's quite good to have some boundaries, like Chantal was talking about pillars. So this is what we're going to post about, like new products, the team, that kind of thing. But then also think what you won't post about, which might be, some people decide they don't want to post anything about their kids or family or that kind of thing. Or maybe you've got two businesses. And so, right, on one feed, one Instagram account, you'll post about one, and then on LinkedIn, you post about something completely different. But if you post about both on both channels, it's a bit confusing for people. And the other thing is think about who's going to do it. So if you're a one-man band, then it probably is you. But there's always people around that are quite keen to help. So there might be someone in the family who would be good. There might be someone currently on furlough who would actually, relish the chance to do something productive at the moment. There might be someone who's looking for a chance to add experience to their portfolio, to their career history. So it doesn't always have to be you taking everything on. And also think about what's going to be sustainable over the long term. So maybe you've got more time on your hands at the moment while things are a little bit more quiet, but think about 6 months' time when life is, I hope, a bit more back to normal, then what's going to be sustainable then? So don't make a rod for your back by taking on way too much that you won't be able to keep up. So yeah, all that planning is really important. And while it feels like it takes time, it does actually save you time in the long run. We've got a social media checklist. I should have mentioned at the beginning. So if you go to our website, social-media-checklist, then it helps you get all of this into focus. It helps you identify what your goals are and what you're going to be posting about, that kind of thing. The next thing, photography. Marissa, talk about photography, because you...
I'm a visual person. I like photography.
Yeah.
So that is easy for me. It's fun for me. I do it anyway. I spend a lot of time being interested in what's visually interesting. But yeah, all that to say, we talked about it a little bit last week in the sense of, we don't all have endless amounts of money to put towards different tools, different marketing, whatever it might be. Photography, I think, is worth either, if you can style something yourself, take the time to put it in the light versus, in the dark, it looks like this, in the light, it looks like this. Taking a while to do, we talked about Wild Frost in Ramsey, which is a delicious cafe, florist. They sell gifts as well. She has obviously partnered or perhaps pays a photographer and takes very professional photos. Now, obviously, it's not hard. She has beautiful, stunning flowers. She works in the wedding industry and cafe culture. So there's a lot there for her. But she also takes photos on her own. But she has this sort of bank of choreographed photos that are just, stunning. So when you really want to make impact, she can pop one up. I would say, if it's possible, or if you know a photographer and you can strike up a deal, or if it's worth even just sort of paying for an hour of someone's time to take really excellent product shots or team shots or whatever it might be that you can use. I'm a big fan of longevity as well. So we call it evergreen products in marketing, and just being able to use it. So not Christmas necessarily. You want to focus on your shop or your team or whatever it might be that you can use. You can reuse the products. So, but there's lots of ways to do it yourself as well. So we can go into that whenever.
So yeah, it's good to get a set of, if you sell products, tangible physical products, get some really nice pictures of them. I'm always coming across beautiful, cafes with beautiful images on Instagram of all their lovely cakes, and branding. So anything you'll find, if you get a really good shot of your branding, your logo, maybe your shop door, you'll find yourself using it again and again, because there's loads of times where you need an exact image, but then you discover actually you've got something fairly generic that will work. So that's good. People love human stories on social media, so get some nice quality pictures of you, the business owner, the team, all of that kind of thing. And then the logo as well. You'll just find it's really versatile, and sometimes it can make the difference. Say if you want to get in the local press, then if you're on the news desk and you're deciding what to publish, it can make the difference sometimes. If someone's got some decent quality assets to go with it, then it might mean that they take your story over someone else's. And so even if it is a standard picture of the business owner against a white background or similar, then it gives them that extra content that means they can publish and hopefully share on social media as well. So now is a really good time to do this. It's a good time of year. As Marissa was saying, it's not terribly seasonal. So you won't walk down the high street and find loads of Christmas displays that mean you can't use it again in March. If it's quiet now, then just experiment, just try some different options. Try framing your shots better, try clearing a load of clutter out the background, try to just find a nice spot where the lighting is good. If you sit underneath, if you've got a downlight above you there, then sometimes that can put you in a lot of shadow and it doesn't look so good. Or equally, if you take your pictures in a kitchen where your spotlights normally look amazing, actually you can get these weird shadows and reflections. So just experiment, have a little play and contrast with different images to see how they look. So
Yeah,
yeah.
if I could just add, because I'm very mindful, I know we talk about cakes and flowers, but
Mm,
I'm, you know, in terms of services, I think the real benefit to photography is that you want to take the risk out of someone. So I know Premier Travel, for example, they're in the workshop, and if I want to know what it feels like to go into your store, to go in and what would it be like when we are interacting, you know, even just a top photo of you at your desk, like working up a contract or whatever it could be, stylizing the essence of what you do and what it feels like to shop there. So how do I get there? Something like we talked about, like a time lapse coming from the center of town to, or where someone might park, a time lapse to your shop, especially if it is maybe tricky to find, or beautiful or whatever, or favorite things along the way. Yeah, in terms of photography of what the services will feel like, what the waiting room feels like, what the product package, if you give them a package of assets that they'll need to take away with, that all informs the decision as someone. So you can put that out there and it is very useful. So
yeah, no,
law
I think
firm,
you're
anyone.
right. Yeah, and particularly in things like, say, if you're in the legal business, or solicitors, or anything where people might feel a little bit intimidated about coming to see you because it's not the kind of thing they do all the time, and it feels a bit, then good photography can help break down those barriers and make it more likely for people to walk through your door than someone else that's coming across a bit more distant and austere. So yeah, now's the time to strike with good photography. Now's the time to experiment. And then the last thing in terms of where to focus your time and energy is promotions, so paid social media campaigns. And so the thing about social media advertising is it can massively increase the reach of your activity, by which I mean it'll get seen by more people. So back in the early days when Facebook first launched, I mean, I did some work with Dove, and they quickly grew to 20 million followers all around the world. And it was like, well, hey, amazing, we don't have to pay for this, and we can reach all of these people and sell even more shampoo. And then gradually Facebook realized, right, we've got to start making some money out of this. And so gradually they reduced the reach. So your content was being seen by fewer and fewer people. And the cost, they started to introduce cost to make sure it did get seen. So you had to pay to boost a particular post. And then they became very clever, as they are now, in with targeting and different costs for it and all that kind of thing. So it means now that quite often, if you, I mean, like our own Facebook page, we don't get a lot of views on it, to be quite honest with you. I mean, that's not where we focus a lot of our energy, but if we put some money behind it, then it'll go like that. So it's worth thinking about, not for your general activity, but if you've got something very clear and specific that you want to promote, then it can really speed up and the sort of success that you achieve, and it means that it'll get seen by so many more people. And it is very easy to change budget. So the joy of digital marketing, if you compare it to taking out a massive billboard or print ads, then you pay for that, you send off the artwork, it goes up, and then after that you've got no control. Whereas social media advertising, if it's working, brilliant. If you spend 100 quid and you're making 500, then you can carry on for another week or another 6 weeks or whatever you want to do. And you can change your targeting as you go. So if you realize a particular audience is really keen on a product, then you can move the budget over to them. So it is very flexible, which is why it's such a great tool. And then, yeah, you can generate leads and sales very quickly. So if there's a particular thing you want to do, then it's really effective. But it's important to make sure you do have a clearly defined audience and a clearly defined goal. So, for example, we promoted these workshops on social media, and so we knew the audience. It's people in Huntingdonshire. We're not trying to advertise to people in Aberdeen, Tennessee, or anywhere like that. It's a very ring-fenced kind of audience geographically. And then there was a very clearly defined goal. So we knew, right, we want people to sign up to this workshop to come along because we know it's going to be of benefit. So whereas what we wouldn't do is just generally have something about HDC and say, hey guys, we're the council. Because that's I wouldn't say it's a waste of money, but it's not really benefiting anybody. So try and think about when you've got an actual promotion, you're launching something, you know exactly who you're advertising to, and then it can be really effective. So that was the ad that we put out there that you might have seen. So in summary, thinking about where to focus, platforms, yeah, don't worry, you don't have to be on every social media channel going. Maybe less is more sometimes. And planning, so if you make a bit of time to plan once a week, once a quarter, once a month, whatever works for you, then that can save you time in the long run. And photography, anything that you can do now is a really solid investment that you will not regret. And then promotions as well. So try and clearly define your audience and goals. So that was, so that was thinking about where we could focus. Does everyone just want a couple of minutes just to think about this and make any notes? I might just change my view, or are people taking notes as we go? There's a few nods. Thank you, Becky, for your clear nod, your clearly defined nod then. Okay, well, I might just crack on because we've got loads to cover.
Joe had a good question about Facebook
Great.
advertising. Do you need to spend more for longer rather than little and often?
I can answer that. What people do wrong is they spend some money on social media advertising, then they forget about it. So the thing is, after about a week or so, the value you're getting from that is, I wouldn't say nosediving, but people have already seen the ad. So it's just coming around again. And then you get things happening, like there was something came up in my feed about Mother's Day, which was still running several days afterwards, saying, this Mother's Day, make sure you do this. And the thing is, Mother's Day finishes at midnight on that Sunday. So don't just put something up and just leave it there forever. But I think, what was the question again, Marissa?
Just put it up for long, spend more for longer rather than little and often.
I think it's to constantly look at the results you're getting. So if you are getting results around promoting a particular service, then you might want to look at that and think, oh, I wonder why this is. Maybe it's the imagery, maybe it's the way that I've written it. Look at the comments that you're getting from people and see how they're responding. And then maybe if it is bringing you results, then change the image after a while or refresh the text so that at least people are seeing something new and different. And then also think about what you're promoting. So maybe you do something around events. So just put money behind events to make sure you sell tickets. So I think it's more about that than a general kind of rule of thumb way of doing it. It's more about what you're promoting in your business.
And I think early on, because I know, Joe, you've done advertising for a while, but early on it's about gathering data, isn't it? Who are your customers? Who's interested? Are you gathering new followers to then be watching your products and then gaining interest and then sales? Or are you selling a particular product? And there's no wrong way, because for you, for example, it might be really interesting. You could show one of your walls and this, we really specialize in this sort of craft material, or we really specialize in adults, but also we have children. We have seasonal craft packages, because I know your Easter one's coming out. So it's a different way. You want to just be intriguing people to sort of follow you, or are you doing a point of sale and trying to get them to buy right away? I guess that's the interesting, but essentially probably longer in terms of gaining data. But yes, you do have to keep kind of refreshing the content, because what you don't want to do, and I know people have been talking about last week as well, is they don't want to irritate people and just keep, if you're just putting out the same thing to the same people, that's not, it's not valuable. So I think just continue, like mentioning exactly what I've just said, where we specialize over here, but we also have this, and that's sort of to gain what, to sort of see where your customers are interested, what has the best following. Can you do a video? Because I know you do some videos or some time lapses versus a photo versus versus a end product, perhaps. Look what we made, or look what you can do too. Could be very useful.
I mean, I've blocked people on Twitter because I've just seen the same promotion come up in my feed for months on end, it's felt like. So it's gone through that awareness raising moment where I think, oh, I haven't heard of them before, to they're so annoying, will they leave me alone? So yeah, just make sure you don't leave exactly the same campaign running for weeks on end, because you'll look at it and you think, oh, this isn't getting us results. But it might not be to do with the quality of the campaign you're running. It could be because people are just getting a bit tired of it and it doesn't feel fresh anymore. So let's have a look at tools. So there's 3 things that I want to focus on here. So first of all, things that will help you do better image and video content, and then scheduling tools. So you don't always have to do every single post live there and then. You can sometimes sit back and schedule up a load of content, which is a really satisfying feeling. And then measuring as well. So there's no point doing all of this if you're not taking a look to see what's working for you. So visual tools, which, like I say, is Marissa's specialist subject. So the great thing about these is they save you time. They can help create that consistent brand look and feel. So you could have, maybe you look at your brand colors and you think, okay, you're always going to have something laid over the screen with your branding on, your logo or something. And then there's loads of fun features as well nowadays, like animation, and then it can sometimes bring content to life in a way that feels quite subtle and sophisticated. It doesn't have to be crazy, crazy. So this is Canva. Has anyone, who's heard of Canva? Actually, to ask everyone, yeah, a few people say yes. So yeah, we're big fans of Canva. So it used to be Photoshop was the major player, but then of course you need skills and a bit of training. I kind of taught myself gradually in this rather painstaking way how to use Photoshop. But Canva is designed so if you don't have any design experience, you can get started. It gives you templates and everything is social media ready. So it fits particular dimensions. So as you can see on screen at the moment, you've got Instagram posts, which are square, but then Instagram stories are more rectangular. So it will start you off without you having to scratch your head and think, well, what's going to fit best here? So yeah, you can also put brand fonts in it. So I think that's with the pro version, which is about £8 a month, I think. So you can put your brand colors in there and decide on the fonts as well. So again, that really speeds things up. Marissa, how do we use Canva, or how can you suggest people use Canva?
So it's a great, I mean, what is also excellent about it is they do throw out a lot of suggestions for you as well. Here are some templates that work. So if you like a certain style, you can take it and adapt it to your needs. So that's really great because if you like, you know, people sometimes like to do quotes, or we talked about reviews, testimonials, that sort of thing. Well, that's great, but those are words. So how do you get that on social media? And this is a really effective way to do it. So you can literally type in testimonials or reviews or whatever it might be, and it will come with a whole list of templates that you can take. Now, as Sue mentioned, it is completely free. You can use the free one. With the free one, there's a limited choice, or it'll cross out certain features where you can't have. So you can use this, but you can't have this, or you can pay one. I think it's $1 because it's in American. So $1 for a photo, for example. However, if you are finding that you're using this, and the cost of the Adobe suite, for example, is something like £300 a year or more. So this is, significantly cheaper. So if you are using it, then it really is easy because, as Sue says, you can put in your brand colors, you can put in your logo, you can save all your favorite designs or features or whatever it might be, and it's all there for you. So it is excellent. You can do posts, you can put in your staff profiles, for example, could be a great way to use it, and it will size it. So even if you pick a certain design and you've done it and you love it, you can actually resize them within. So you can do it for LinkedIn, for Facebook, for Instagram is square, essentially 4x5. So yeah, it makes it very, very simple. And you can actually animate things as well. So because video does stop people's attention a little bit faster, there's more engagement rate on social media, you can actually make something slide in, which makes it a video and therefore just has a bit more engagement. So there's a lot to play around with. They also have an excellent, I put it up last time, but they have a really good resource center. So if you want to learn a bit more about certain elements, design, branding, best practice for certain things, they have a really good, I think it's called a knowledge base. I'll put it in.
Yeah, no, they are really good. Chantel says as a designer she hates them, but yeah, so sorry about that.
Yeah, if you have design skills, then actually it's probably way more frustrating because it restricts you and it's not that great. But just to throw something up and change a color or change a photo and walk away with it, it's pretty effective.
You can do other things as well, like menus as well, can't you? There's all those nice templates as well, which might be useful for people. So right, here's some of our favorite apps that we use all the time. So we do use us as a business, the Adobe products like Illustrator and InDesign and that kind of thing. But yeah, you do have Canva, and then also Pablo is another one like Canva that goes with Buffer, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. But then actual apps on your phone, we love Snapseed, which helps you edit images, Life Lapse, again, follow Marissa on Instagram. Beautiful little animations that you do. It's lovely. InShot, is InShot more for video editing?
InShot, you can do both. InShot is excellent. I use it more for video editing because I have my preferred photo editing, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's very user-friendly. Really great.
Yeah, UCut, I quite like that one. Apple Clips, you did that fun little video of me once putting up an umbrella like that, and it came out a bit like the, not like the AHA video, but a bit kind of like it had been illustrated.
I turned Sue into a little cartoon, yes. So
Yeah.
that's from Apple Clips. The only downside, because it is free, downside is you need an iPhone. So
Yes,
that's
yeah,
product.
which I don't have.
It is excellent for, playing around.
But I mean, actually, the Niche Comics store, there's loads of fun that you could have looking at the comics themselves and putting filters over it and everything else. So the key here is to just download and experiment. And a bit like we were saying with platforms, then you don't have to download every single tool going, but just have a little play and experiment and see, and you might find, oh, I absolutely love this one, and we can do so much with it with our sort of products. There'll be something that you gravitate towards and you think, oh, this is fun. So if it's fun, you're going to want to do it again. And if it is slightly more interesting than just taking a picture, so it adds a touch of animation or some kind of cool filter on it, then you might find you get more engagement as well.
And if you are interested, because I mean, I think these apps do spend a lot of their time trying to make people feel foolish because they're always updating and putting in new features that you have to become an expert in. So don't feel like you need to be an expert. But also, when in doubt, just Google, how do I use this, or the best ways to do, or top 10 features, because people love putting out articles that tell you exactly how to use products, and usually the company themselves, but also dedicated fans. So there's always a bit more help out there if you need it.
And also, just thinking about phones, then then your camera, it will come with an image editor as well. So just taking those few extra seconds just to crop it, just to get the person a bit more centered on the screen, for example, or to lighten it up if it's a bit of a dark day or a bit of a gloomy corner, then that can make all the difference as well. So sometimes it's right there in front of you as well.
Yeah, as I've said, for example, this has a much different effect. I mean, it's not great, but than this, which is very far away, and it makes it much smaller. Do I want to focus on somewhat? It depends how you're trying to frame something. Rule of thirds and all these things we can go into if you want.
How would you take a picture of that cup right now then, Marissa? What would you do to make that interesting?
I mean, I'd open my curtain a little bit better. But I mean, generally you see a lot of great, people like to situate themselves. So if this was about, for example, if I was out and about in Huntington, then I would, I'd show a nice background. I'd have this front and center, but I'd want to make sure that there was, so I'd talk about my delicious coffee or whatever that I purchased somewhere locally, or my amazing Marimekko cup, which I really like their designs. But I would also situate myself so I see this stunning background, or there's a bit more information about where I would be, for example, which is right now my child bedroom, so I could showcase more of the stickers in the background or something.
Yeah. Sorry, just putting you on the spot there. So visual tips, see what's on your phone already, because you might be surprised. Particularly, I mean, I just got a new phone last week actually, and there's loads of stuff already installed, so I need to have a play. Experiment, so take a picture today, just straight after the session, and just have a go at cropping it and see what difference that makes. Maybe lightening it, adding some text over the top, because not every social media image needs to be a picture of a thing. It can be a graphic with text on it, like a quote, for example, maybe a testimonial or a lovely Google review. So if after this we all leave Google reviews for each other and Facebook reviews, you could take one of those, turn it into a graphic and share it on social media. You might not want to include the person's name because they may not have given their permission, but you could still use it as a review. That'd be a really nice thing to do. And get really familiar with one or two that you really like. Don't feel that you've got to use a different tool for different things all day long. Okay, so thinking next in what else is in our toolkit. So scheduling tools. So scheduling content is a really good thing to do because it means that you can do a batch in one go. So if you've got a particular thing happening, like an event, you could program a daily tweet to go out in the run-up to the event, for example, and make sure that the day before the event is a link to really helpful information about how people get there and what time it starts. So it's done then, which means that you are free to concentrate on other stuff. So I tend to call these kind of building block tweets sometimes, or posts. So you're getting this regular content going out, but then around that, you can be more spontaneous. So you might want to post every day about your the delivery service with niche comics, but then you walk down the street and you see someone else's window display, and then you do something a bit more spontaneously then. And it helps you get a good mix of varied and consistent content. So you might accidentally be always posting about the same thing. Whereas when you schedule things up, like Chantel was saying, she wants people to be posting around these pillars of content, so particular core topics. So if you schedule, then you can look at that and think, oh, actually, no, we do need a bit more of this, and we're not promoting that enough. And then it helps you promote products and services more effectively because you're sitting down and doing it in one go, rather than, oh God, we haven't put anything on Twitter for ages, which is a problem I think we all have sometimes, where we think, oh, let this drift a little bit. So if you can sit down and schedule things up, then it does make sure that you've got a steady volume of content going out. So Facebook, so you can do it in the tools, in the platforms themselves. So in Facebook, for example, if you go to write a post, then just see down at the bottom, you can either click to share now, or you can save a draft, preview it, which is always good, or you can schedule it as well. So a lot of this is already built into the tools themselves, not every platform though. Or you can use a tool like Buffer, so one that we mentioned a second ago. And Buffer is really nice for scheduling. So it doesn't allow you to see all of the posts coming in. It's to schedule content up. And you can have a simple approach where you've got 10 slots, for example, and you decide, okay, I'm going to post every day at commuter times. So I'll have a post going out twice a day, maybe 7:45 and 5:45, and then you can just pop content into these slots. You don't have to overthink it, and then it will just keep on going out. And then after that, you can decide, oh, actually, I want something to go out right now. So you can do that as well. So it does make it nice and easy, and you can also run lots of different platforms through it. So in one go, you can sit down and write posts for LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, all these different things, all through one tool, which is really nice. You can also get a calendar view, so you can see how it looks in a slightly different way visually. And then if you really get the hang of it, then you can use something like Hootsuite, which is a lovely social media dashboard, which allows you to schedule content, but it also means you can watch all of the posts coming in. So anyone let's talk about Twitter. Anyone that's tweeting you, you'll see that. You'll see those posts. You can see all of the posts from people that you follow. You can also have searches in particular columns. So maybe if there's a particular product that you're interested in, or have an eye on your competitors, or maybe if you're posting on a particular hashtag like Think Local Hunts, then we could have a column about that and we could see all of the tweets about it. So these kind of dashboards are really good once you get quite, I don't know, once you're more depth at it and you feel more proficient, you think, right, okay, now's the time to really take control. So that one's called Hootsuite, but there are others out there. So thing to remember is schedule for when your audience is around. And I mean, a good example of this is if there's anyone here that's got a customer base in the US, maybe you do lots of exporting, then there's no point scheduling content for 9 o'clock in the morning UK time. You may as well, because they'll all be asleep. So think about when your audience is around. This could be a Saturday morning when people are starting to go shopping. It could be the evening if people have got more time in their hands then. Just think a bit more carefully about when people are likely to be receptive to your content. And you can also tailor for each platform, so don't necessarily put exactly the same stuff out on every platform. And you can also preview as well, so have a look, see how it looks. And I'm a big fan as well of seeing how things look on mobile, particularly website content, because it might look beautiful on your lovely big monitor, but on your screen, everything is moved around on mobile, so have a look on mobile. And then the other thing just to mention on scheduling is to keep an eye on the news. And I've got so many examples I could share about people scheduling content and then just forgetting about it. My favourite one was, what's his name? Alan, the apprentice, what's his name?
Sugar.
Thank you. Alan Sugar, yeah, did this really promotional tweet about his new book that was coming out, but he scheduled it for 11 o'clock on Remembrance Day. So right in the middle, you know, and we're about to do something similar shortly. But so there's everyone else across the country falling silent, and then there's him posting this really salesy, promotional, you know, bragging kind of thing about his book. And of course he'd just scheduled it up and not really thought about the date of the time. So if you do schedule content, just keep an eye on the news, just in case anything happens that could make your content look sensitive, or just think about dates and just think what other people are doing at that time. And then the last thing, thinking about what's in our toolkit. So measuring. So if you're going to spend all this time on social media, improving your profile, posting around the clock, being really active, then you need to look at the data a little bit as well to find out what's working. And it's interesting how many people don't do this. So I'm going to ask in chat, how many people who are using social media already look at the statistics and the data and track things like how many views they're getting on posts and all that kind of thing. What are people saying? Ree, Kath, yep. Chantal, lovely. Sean, brilliant. Okay, the people that have posted yes, can you just follow up in the chat as well and just say what kind of things you look for? Yeah, what are you measuring? What are you looking at? Yeah, lovely. So engagement, what we're talking about there is likes, shares, comments. Reach, yeah, thank you, Kath. That's how many people are actually getting to see the content. Reach on posts, see if we've had more likes. Yeah, and this is really important. If you are going to put any money behind the activity, then you need to identify what's working well already, because then that's going to give you more likelihood of getting results. Views and click-throughs, yeah. So if you're trying to lead people to your website, that's why you're using social media, then it's really good to see if people are viewing it and how many people are clicking through to the site. Type of audience, where they're from, yeah, yeah. Amanda's not had a go. Hopefully you're getting lots of inspiration. Age, yeah. I mean, really, you're thinking about your audience and who your target customer is. So you want to see if your social media activity is hitting the right people that are in line with your target audience. Okay, so let me just close that and move that there. So there's to measure the activity, then there are inbuilt tools. So just a little one from our Facebook page. And so I can see, okay, it reached 202 people, 26 engagements. So that's people clicking like and comment and share and that kind of thing. We tagged a lot of people in this post, and that increased the likelihood of more people seeing it as well. And then it can tell me things like how many people clicked on the link and all of that. So it's important with any sort of measuring to think carefully about what you do want to measure, because sometimes you can get low levels of engagement, but loads more followers, and maybe that's what you want. Or maybe you want loads of engagement, in which case maybe you want to change the way that you write the posts or the visuals. So always think carefully about what it is that you're measuring, what it is you really want to see. This is the back end of Twitter. Twitter analytics, their data, it looks really lovely. I really like it. It's really pleasing to move around, and it can tell you, like we can see here, that there's more activity during weekdays with this particular organization, and you can see which posts are getting the most clicks, which is really useful. Engagement rate on Twitter, don't be disheartened if it is really low, because sometimes it can be. But yeah, so you can see all of these things in Twitter, Instagram as well. Their analytics have improved massively lately. It used to be quite slim pickings, didn't it? And that's really, really improved. So you can look at stories and see which ones of those are more popular, what kind of activity you're getting on posts. And then, does anybody here use Google Analytics as well? I hope I'm not getting too technical with all this stuff. But yeah, Google Analytics is a thing that you put on your website. So it's not a social media tool, it's for your website. And this shows you all these kind of things like where your website visitors are coming from, how long they stay, which pages are most popular. There's a thing called a bounce rate. So if people arrive on a website and then they disappear off straight away, then that's going to give you a high bounce rate. And then you can also see where the visitors are coming from in terms of social media. So you might send out, you might spend all your time doing email marketing, and then you look at your data here and realize, oh, hang on a second, most of our website visitors are coming from Facebook. Okay, so let's do more Facebook activity. So because you're looking at the numbers, it helps you make decisions about what you want to do. So yeah, thinking about what we should measure, the kind of things that people might want to know: how many followers, quite handy. What kind of posts do people like? So if you start spending more time on photography and posting really beautiful pictures, you might find your engagement goes up and you think, oh, okay, lovely, we'll do a bit more of that. Or helpful posts. You might realise, was it Tina with the salon earlier? I was thinking what people want to know right now is how to cut their fringe, and I need to sort out my split ends. And then there's roots, how do you do your roots? All these kind of things, because people haven't been to the hairdressers for ages. So you might find that helpful posts are really good. Or yeah, there's just so much variety. And if you look at the data, then it helps you make those decisions about what you could be posting about. And it can also tell you when the most popular times are to post. So it's in your interest to post more when people are more receptive to you and the nature of your business. So say if you're in sport, Saturday afternoon, people are quite engaged with football and rugby and everything else. So that can be quite a good time to post because everyone wants to talk about it right then. Whereas 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, maybe less so. So think about your business, look at the data, see when you get engagement, and then that will help you decide when to post.
Often people, we also know a lot of people who contribute during, for example, Bake Off, or wasn't there a craft off, something like that could be really helpful, Joe, for example. So if you're contributing to, especially Twitter, where it's the stream of, you could follow the hashtag and you can just tweet while people are live watching something. That is a really great way to get in front of new audiences who care about your subject matter. So if you have something in the industry that could be relevant, or you're watching something and it could pertain to what you do, feel free to kind of try to jump on that, because there actually might be engaged audience there.
Yeah, that's really, really true. And things like any local hours on Twitter. So where I live in Ely, there's Ely Hour, and then there's St Neots Hour, and all this kind of thing. That's also a good time to leap in and join the discussion there. So yeah, that's some thoughts on measurement. So it's really important to get in the habit of doing it. So you might want to go all official and do a monthly report for yourself, or it might be a case of just checking in daily and just having a little look. Or if there's a particular thing that you're promoting, definitely if you're spending money on it, then you need to keep an eye on it and see how that's going, because it can give you all sorts of interesting insights that will help you get a better return on your investment in time. And act on what you see. So don't just sit there thinking, oh, that post did really well, and then leaving it at that. So have a look at a post that does really well and think, well, I wonder why that is. Is it because I wrote this really fun caption that went with it? So maybe people do want a bit of humour, something a bit more light-hearted. Or was the image that you use really fun or really thought-provoking? And just really think, okay, well, if that worked on that post, then maybe I should use it on the next one. Not to make them all identical, but anything, it will give you information that will help you post even more effectively in the future. And so there's various tools to try. I said this is a toolkit section. So the inbuilt stuff, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, they all come with insights, with analytics, with data that you can look at. LinkedIn is a bit rubbish. I've got to be honest with you. Facebook is quite good, isn't it? Instagram is better nowadays. Twitter is quite pleasing on the eye. And then you can use external tools as well. So things like, we've recently started to use Sife, where you can get loads and loads of little dashboards and widgets and stuff. Sprout Social is quite good. Hootsuite can give you reporting. And then Google Analytics as well, which is for your website rather than your social media activity. Marissa, any more thoughts from you on this?
No, I think, yeah, that is how, and also Google Analytics is free, but it is a bit of a beast. It is sort of complicated, so it's worth looking up how to use it. The other thing I know we touched on, but I mentioned to Becky already, but Google My Business is very worth it. Sort of putting attention to adding, so the same place where you'd add Google reviews as a customer, you can maintain over your pages. So you can sort of add photos, the photos that we talked about. You can make sure your description is really up to date. You can sort of look at how, yeah, your hours, your contact details, making sure everything is relevant, adding your logo, all that stuff, because Google really likes, then they know, especially if you're adding new updates. You can do a product update, for example, there. You can do, if you have a blog, you can post it. It'll allow, I think, up to 3 posts, and then they sort of time out over a week. But that sort of, it informs Google that you are an active business, that you have interesting information for your customers who would be looking for you, and they tend to sort of rank you a bit higher. So just putting in that sort of effort into Google My Business could be really helpful as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it doesn't take a lot of time to maintain as well. If you just sit down for an afternoon and just whiz through, make sure all of your products and services are in there, you've added some more pictures, and it's all up to date, then actually you don't have to do a lot more to keep it ticking over.
Mhm.
And what you'll find is if you look at your competitors, they're not doing it. People just don't realize it's there.
People forget about
Whereas,
it, you set it up and you forget, but Google really likes updates.
mm,
That is
mm.
good.
Yeah, definitely. And when people search for you or your type of business, then you're going to come up and this could potentially fill half the screen. So it's a real opportunity for not very much effort to do really well in Google search compared to a lot of other people. And then because it links with Google Maps, then if people are looking up local hairdressers or plumbers or um, food outlets, whatever, then it will all come up in Google Maps and then your page will look much better than everyone else's. So yeah, it's a real easy win, that one,
Mhm.
particularly compared to a lot of other people who don't realize they can do it. So yeah, that is a good point. Okay, so in summary, in your social media toolkit, it's really good to get a bit more busy with video and image apps, anything to make your content more visual. And then scheduling tools so that you can sit back and, knowing that the content's going out regularly, and then measuring tools as well. So you're spending all of this time on your social media activity, but this will help you find out what's working and what isn't. Now we're going to talk about engaging content, and this is less platform specific and more principles that you can apply across anything. So when we talk about engagement, it's one of those kind of marketing terms, but what we're really saying is that we want people to click. You want people to see your post and click through to your website. We want them to read the post. We want them to click through and read your blog, for example. We really want them to share the content. We want them to retweet if it's on Twitter. And a comment is really nice as well. So this is what we really want from people, some sort of engagement, because particularly on Facebook, for example, someone posts and comments underneath your post, then the chances are that other people in the network will see it too. So it really helps to spread of your content, which is what we want. So yeah, think about your own social media activity. What kind of posts do you comment on yourself? So what makes you share someone's Facebook post, or what makes you retweet? And then equally, what kind of posts get engagement for you? Yeah, let's see what people say. So yeah, if you think about the very last social media post that you engaged with in some way, maybe you clicked like, maybe you commented. Okay, important local issues from Kath. Yeah, offering a giveaway. Local stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Stunning photos, nice, socially relevant topics. I think we are by nature quite helpful creatures. So if someone asks a question, then we do like to help out in some way, don't we? Whether it's to recommend someone or to offer some advice. Yeah, something visual. What about you, Marissa? What's the last social media post that you engaged with in some way?
I engage all the time. I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
trying
I
to,
know.
I find, I must admit, this year has made me even more, because I'm already kind of this like empathetic, compassionate. I like to put myself in people's shoes and help where I can. Um, but I find I'm really engaged with people. I really want to help where people, it will make a difference. I think I'm trying to use my money very conscientiously and support small businesses, talk about it if I do, talk about it if I like them, and just kind of what I believe, and make that bigger imprint, and purchase where I think it will make a big difference. So I find that I kind of engage with that. Um,
One thing I'm doing a lot on LinkedIn at the moment is just posting a little something every day. So on LinkedIn, it doesn't have to be this huge, long, groundbreaking post where you're changing the world or anything. It's quite nice just to post a little bit every day. And so I have found over the last week, I've just been saying, oh, well done, or congratulations to someone who's had a promotion or won an award, that kind of thing. And that's just, it's a nice thing to do. It keeps that steady connection. Awareness Day, yeah. Local issues, family things. Okay, yeah. Admin a COVID page. Yeah, so there's a lot of like comments there about visual content, and also where there's an opportunity to be helpful. And then, so yeah, let's run through 8 ways to get people engaging. And I've got quite a few examples here from local organisations. So one thing is topicality, and this could be more kind of global or national things. So like there's an election coming up, or it's the Olympics and you can find a little angle. But then it's also things like Mother's Day we've got here, we've got Valentine's Day, all of those things that are quite topical, people are interested, it's front of mind. No point posting about Halloween at the moment, but then when October comes around and there's that sort of different feel in the air, then great, let's start talking about Halloween. So always think if there is a topical angle, that means you can work in a post or two. And then humour as well. I really want to go to Di Rita's Italian cuisine, and it's great. And so they use quite a lot of humour in their posts. This one, we all need a laugh right now, competition time. And, they're all dancing in the kitchen. And it's just quite a lot of fun. People like innocent smoothies, they do humour really well. And for some organisations, then humour won't be for you. Maybe if you've got quite a serious, sensible kind of sector that you're in, but that doesn't mean you can't find a way of being light-hearted sometimes. So yeah, humor can quite often get good levels of engagement. And then helpful content as well. So if you think about YouTube, the kind of videos that do really well are how-to videos. People always want to know things like, how do I fix a cracked iPhone screen or that kind of thing? Or how do I roast a chicken? All of those things where people need advice and guidance in how to do something. But then on a more local level, things like this around your own products and services are really useful as well. So I live in Ely, and Toppings booksellers do really nice social media content. And there, Angela from Niche Comics, you were saying, oh, what if people, suddenly realize people don't know that you're doing this delivery? And so this is what they're doing here as well. They're saying, yeah, we're open, click and collect. You can come in and buy a book on the doorstep, which is something I've done myself. Helpful information about opening hours. And I think at the moment, we are all in a little bit of a fog where we're not quite sure what's open and when we can go out, who with, how many people. So to continually keep offering this helpful information is really good. Or join us at the market, brilliant. We're here until 2 p.m. today, and I've got some fun little emojis as well. So any kind of helpful advice, or like I was saying, teach people how to cut their fringes. I imagine a few people have had disasters by now. So anything helpful is really, really good on social media. It's very shareable. And then questions as well. I was looking around for someone who might have posted with a question on social media. And then I came across these guys, Gigs. Hello, people from Gigs. And you've got loads of questions. So it was an example, times 10. So asking people a question is a really good way of phrasing a social media post, because if people know the answer, it means that they might want to post or comment. And then if they don't, sometimes it gets them thinking, and they might scroll through to find the answer. So if you're looking at your wording on your social media post and you think, well, this is all right, but it's a bit boring, then turning it into a question can be a really good way of giving it a little lift. And something like on LinkedIn, where it's going to truncate the content, make it really short when people first see it. then if you start with a question, and it just gives it a really bold start and gets people thinking, oh, this looks interesting. So yeah, finding ways to put questions and things is a really good approach. You can have fun with things like polls. So polls on Twitter can be really good fun. National Toast Day. So if you have a poll on Twitter, then it's not terribly scientific. It's something that you can do for fun. So Yorkshire Tea had one, which was what's your favorite afternoon drink, and both answers were tea. You know, so you don't have to have anything terribly rigorous and scientific. It can be for fun, but then it's quite a nice way of mixing up the content, do something a bit different. And visual content, something that we've mentioned a few times in the session today. And these are some people, they run some fitness classes in Ely. And it's really interesting. We were talking earlier about investing in good quality photography and assets early on. So they worked out what their colour palette was going to be really early on. They must have done a little photo shoot, whether they got a friend to do it or what, I don't know. But they've had this consistent style all the way through, which during lockdown and everything has meant they've got this set of assets to share, and they've got this really strong visual identity. So this can encourage engagement because there's familiarity, it's well shot, and it gets people viewing the content in a different way rather than just a text post. So if you include more video content, social media platforms love video content, and so they might make it show up more prominently in people's feeds. It means people will understand what you're posting about because they can just tell in a second what it's about. And it also pushes everybody else's content down. So if you've got a really big image, then it will push everything else down, which can be quite useful. So yeah, there's definitely data that shows that visual posts get more engagement. So it's definitely worth thinking about. The next thing as well is about clever copy. So when you're writing the text with your social media posts, it's always worth just pausing a second just before you post to think, can I write this in a way which is more engaging? So maybe it's more snappy, more punctuation is bizarrely, but a thing that can help with your social media engagement. There's research around that. Spacing things out so there's more line breaks, turning things into a question, really good. I've used this example here because we've got a question at the beginning. It's quite sort of conversational, the way it's written, short sentences. Keeping it short is really good. I know on Twitter, you've got 280 characters to play with nowadays, but that doesn't mean you should use all of them. Using a hashtag can be really good. So we've used Think Local Hunts across everything, which means we can track the campaign as well. But using a hashtag, particularly in Instagram, can help your content be found, and which means more engagement. Emojis can be fun. I quite like using emojis in place of bullet points, and it helps you space out your post and it adds a little bit of fun into it. And it'll be up to you, depending on the nature of your business. Maybe you want to go to town and use them all the time. People who are in food and that kind of area, they probably use them a little bit more than a solicitor's might do. That doesn't mean a solicitor can't, be partial to a little emoji on a Friday afternoon once in a while. And then layering your copy. So by copy, I mean the wording. Layering that on a graphic can be really good as well. But if you do that, keep it fairly simple, because people are viewing on their phones. So you don't want anything that's really condensed and difficult to read. And equally, keep the contrast high. So if you've got white text, put it against a dark blue background, for example. Don't layer white text over a cluttered yellow and white background because people can't read it. So just as an example for you, so we've got Bohemia St. Neots. So they've done they've taken this approach where they've spaced it out. They've got a line break between each line of text. They're using an emoji just for fun. They're asking a clear question. I'm ignoring the typo and beauties because I like them. And yeah, it's very direct and it's telling you about the product, but it's written in a really approachable, fun, kind of conversational kind of way. And then you've got Coversure, who are really good on LinkedIn. Again, they're starting with a question. They're using a few hashtags here, and it's very clear where they're directing people. They've also got a graphic. So they've got their own particular style. So when you look at that, you get familiar with their brand look and feel. So yeah, so I've got 8 of these. So number 7, a call to action. So by what I mean here, you're saying share your renewal date and we'll do this. You're giving people a direction about what you want them to do. So I'll give you some examples. So it's things like if you say download this, or visit us on Saturday to use your free voucher, or sign up to our mailing list to get regular tips and tricks, or install our app to navigate your way around St. Neots, that kind of thing. So you're telling people very directly what to do. Register now, download our report, launch the toolkit, all of these very clear directions. And then this means that people are more likely to engage and actually do the thing that you want them to do. So this, for example, you've got lots of things here that show well-written wording in a social media post. So calling all marketers, it's really upbeat and positive. Does your copywriting drive conversions? Lots of marketing jargon here, but it's asking a question and then it's giving you an instruction as well. Download this guide to become a conversion copywriter today. And then they've also got some text on a nice big bold graphic. So it's a really nice put together post, this is, and it will get lots more downloads because it's telling people to download it. They're not just saying, we've put together this great guide. Aren't we great? It's actually saying, this is for you. This is what it does, and this is what we want you to do now. So yeah, keep it clear what you want people to actually do. Be specific. So if you want them to come and visit your stall on Saturday, then it's a really good idea to tell people that, and show the benefit as well. So you want them to visit your stall on Saturday because if you visit the market on Saturday, you'll be able to have a lovely day out and also try their new brand of coffee, that kind of thing. And getting bossy means telling people exactly what you want them to do. So the last tip to share on levels of engagement is around being personal. And this is something that I can see local retailers and businesses in Hunts doing really well. So it's these more personal stories. So it's opinion, sharing your strong opinions on things, showing your human side. So Little Fenland Eco Shop, for example, she's saying, I've just done the dishes and I'm thinking about this. And she leads into a story. And it's really good if you can have the people who run the business talking about the story behind the business, for example. You can, let's think about coffee, the story that means why did you choose this particular coffee bean from Costa Rica, for example. Any sort of stories around your products, around the people in your business, the opinions that they've got. If you're a particular expert in your field, then to share those opinions, it's really engaging. So in summary, it's really good to make your posts topical. So pick something that's front of mind, whether it's seasonal like Halloween or Easter or Mother's Day, or it could be a big news story. So we've had all of the Meghan Markle and Prince Harry stuff recently. So is there some sort of angle there around wedding cakes with one lady earlier, wedding cakes? Is there something, when they got married that you could crowbar in then? Think about what's front of mind with other people and see if there's a way that you can use that as a bit of a crowbar, something for you to hang a social media post on. Make it funny, so it doesn't have to be a dad joke. It could be just something a bit more light-hearted and amusing, or there might be a running joke that you can share. Anything to make it a little bit more different to the other posts that people might see in their feed. Making it helpful, and this is so good for social media. If there's something that you can share that is helpful or useful to other people, then that's really good. I mean, Marissa, you quite often talk about FAQs.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you talk for a bit. I've been talking for ages. Just
and the thing I love about FAQs is that pertains to everybody of whatever business type you have. What are people either calling you about? What do you wish that customers knew that perhaps there's a confusion when you start to interact with them? Or the other thing is, what do you wish you don't have questions about? So if people are really missing the mark, if they think Joe that you do, I don't know, feast catering, and that's just a waste of your time because that's not what you do, then, that is information that needs to be conveyed. And we love to do, we bake and we do crafts and we do these things well. I'm an artist, making sure that people know exactly what it is you do, the raison d'être, your core essence. If there's questions, about working hours, or can you be reached all the time, or what does a contract look like, or how do we start a process, whatever it might be, is really, really helpful. Sorry, I've just got lost. I had another train of thought, but I'll have to come back to it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point that you made. If you're always getting inquiries from people about a product that you don't actually offer, or a service that you don't actually offer, then just take a fresh look at your profiles and think, well, there must be some reason why people keep on asking us about this. So is there something about your wording you need to change slightly? And equally, if there's an inquiry you keep on getting, people saying, oh, I thought you opened on a Sunday, then is it something that you need to change in your profile to say we're open Monday to Friday, or a particular problem people have that they can never find you? So is there a way that you can use your social media activity to help educate people a little bit on how to find you? There might be, you might be tucked away in this corner, people are always missing this turning. And so something in your social media activity and on your website to help people with that is really useful, and they'll thank you for it later. Saves you time as well, because you're not having to answer the same questions. So taking a quite straightforward flat statement in a social media post and turning it into a question can be a really good approach, really good. It works for blog post titles as well. It works for all sorts of wording across any marketing format. Turning it into a question can be a really good way of getting people to respond in some way. Using images and video. So yeah, we process image content, visual content much more quickly than we do words. And so it can be a really good way of bringing things to life. And particularly if you're in the service industry and you feel like the product, the service itself, you might be thinking, oh, I'm not really sure how to talk about this all the time. Maybe it's legal or financial. Then you can have more visual posts, a few more posts of the team, for example, posts about where you're out and about meeting clients, that kind of thing. You can really use images and video to tell a story. And even on things like LinkedIn really like video nowadays as well. So it's not just Instagram.
I must admit, the beautiful shot, when you do take a striking shot, a beautiful day, a sunrise, whatever it might be, in your town, in your locale, even on LinkedIn, that really does get incredible engagement compared to a lot of other content. So just sort of throwing something out there every now and then, it's another way for people to discover you.
I think as well, people are looking for beauty and happiness at the moment, because we're up against this awful challenge that's been going on for the last year. And so some people on LinkedIn, they've gone for an early morning walk and it's given them a bit of a lift, and they've posted a beautiful site, and it's been lovely. It doesn't have to be all I don't know, really kind of blunt career tips all the time and that kind of thing. It can be just you're posting something because it gives you a lift and you want to share that moment with other people. Sharpening your text as well. So this is about looking at a big long chunk of text, massive long paragraph, and thinking, you know what, I can't read that myself. So I'm just going to give it a little tweak before I press publish, and adding in more line breaks, maybe bullet points, and you could use emojis to do these if you're in the mood. Adding in more full stops, so taking a long sentence and breaking it up into shorter ones, using more plain English, so everyday language, and particularly in maybe academia, so academia, legal, financial, any of those kind of industries, those sectors, people feel that they have to write in this very verbose kind of way, and actually people love it if you can talk in plain English. So think about the phrases that your customers actually use and try and write in a way that's in keeping with that. And think about hashtags. So I'm slightly unconvinced as to how useful hashtags are on LinkedIn. We're using them anyway, but we're not terribly sure about how effective they are. Whereas Instagram, they are very useful, and really think about which hashtags are used by people locally and try and be inventive with it as well. Just have a little rummage around, pay attention to how other people are posting, and you might spot things that that you hadn't realized might be useful. So yeah, sharpen your text and be a bit playful with it. So you might have a long post, lots and lots of text in it. Then the next time, just something really short, just a quick question saying, "Don't you? Who doesn't love this?" or something. So yeah, you can play around with the text, but always try and make it as readable as possible. And just think to yourself, if this came up in my social media feed, if I was someone following me, then would I read this? Would I engage with it? Or would I want to click? Would I like, comment, or share? One thing I'm seeing at the moment is people making use, it used to be the like button, whereas now on LinkedIn and Facebook, you can choose to celebrate or support or love. You can even use that in your post to say, um, you know, maybe you're a cafe and you've got 4 different types of cakes. So click like if you want the strawberry, love if you want the muffins, that kind of thing. And then you can really steer people to pressing those buttons and getting that engagement. And use a clear call to action. So you want them to download something, then tell people to download something. If you want people to book tickets, tell them to book tickets and then put the link clearly afterwards. I think sometimes we can be almost that little bit too timid, whereas if we want people to do something, particularly if you've put some money behind it, you spent budget, then tell people as clearly as possible what it is that you actually want them to do. And then lastly, thinking about engagement, adding in a human story can be really effective. And it doesn't have to be a sob story, it could be something light-hearted, anything that makes that emotional connection. Some of the pictures that we've really enjoyed taking out and about in all the different market towns have been people in their coffee shop or in their van, in their place of work, in their shop. We've been to visit all of these fascinating places and met the people there. And it just makes that connection really nice. I really like the way with Rick Stein, for example, however many years he's been doing his cookery programs, but he always takes a picture of the people outside the shop at the start of his shows. And it's just a really nice human feel to it. Marissa, have you got any more thoughts on that, the human element?
Well, I just thought I'm actually we're doing some interesting work with the markets that are coming up, because the markets have been so invaluable this whole time, and have managed to carry on when we were all queuing up for miles along. But we're working. So I found Mr. Taco, who is I think a new addition to Huntington, and I wasn't as familiar with. But what's interesting is often the photos used to represent them are like the van on an angle and all this. And I was going through their Facebook page, and I thought, God, they have, first of all, I mean, incredible looking food. So I was like starving at the sight of it. And then also just a great, like a very smiley man engaging with a customer outside of his van. And it's sort of like that's what we want to use. That is the sort of experience that I know I'd be getting if I shop there, as well as this delicious food. So that is something, it just felt like a missed opportunity that they weren't showcasing this. And I appreciate that, because I think the thing I come up with against a lot is people are not comfortable having their photo taken. It's very awkward. I'm not comfortable with having my, it's just a different thing, isn't it? I mean, I'm comfortable, but it's awkward when someone puts there's that sensitivity to it. But perhaps there's another way to do it. Turn yourself into a comic, turn yourself into, is there a different way that can you be looking down and sort of whatever it might be, but you want that human element. It just makes it so much more compelling, and it sets you apart from someone from a different business. So it is quite handy.
That's something we do when taking photos of children as well. So obviously with photos of children, there's always going to be, you've got to ask parental consent and that kind of thing. And so quite often it is quite good to take a photo from behind, isn't there? In fact, Marissa, there's one that we've used of your son looking into a shop window. Yes. And obviously you gave consent for that to be used, but it's a good technique to use where you're actually showing the back of someone's head, but they're still doing that activity, so they're still playing with something, they're still drawing something. You might take a picture of hands reaching, not necessarily children now, but hands reaching to pick a cake, or fishmongers to choose which fish to buy that day. So you don't always have to show someone's face. It can sometimes be a hand.
or as a journalistic, when you're doing documentaries and things, you always show the sort of hands or the situation, it orients it is, and it's that human element as well.
I've sometimes taken images when I've been on long lockdown walks. I've taken a video of my feet kind of just from here, just sort of striding somewhere, I think it's reached that point that I'm getting so bored. Anyway, but there's always content you can create right under your nose that has that kind of human element. Now, this is kind of homework, because I think it'd be really nice to have lots of time for questions. So this is what I'll email this round afterwards. But these are some things that we'd really like you to do after the session. So it's all very well kind of saying, oh yeah, make it more engaging like this. But I think until you really have a look at your own content and maybe other people whose content you like as well, that's when it really sinks in. So after the session, have a look at your last 3 social media posts with fresh eyes and think, well, how can you make them more engaging? So is there something that you could do to the text? So just those final little tweaks, maybe to start with a bang, or maybe to space it out a bit more so it's more readable, maybe to use less text. Maybe you write too much each time. Just because you've got all of this space there doesn't mean you always have to use it. Or maybe you could have used a picture or a better picture, or you could have used some video content, all of these things. So like I say, we'll email this around after the session, but it'd be really great if you took a fresh look at your posts. And then remember when we were talking about planning as well, have a think about when you can regularly set aside time to plan. There might be a bit of downtime that you've got. There might be, I don't know, you regularly go for a walk and you could think, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do over the next week. It's a bit like mindfulness, but for social media, I suppose. And think about what type of content you'll post. Maybe think ahead to April, May, June as things start to open up and think, well, actually, I might be about to get quite busy. So let's plan some activity now and think about what we're going to do in the next few months. Have a think about who's going to do it. See if there's anyone you can rope in to do something for you for free, and think about what's sustainable as well. So put some time aside for planning. You'll thank yourself for it later. And then also our social media checklist, which is really good, I hope, at helping you focus on where you should put your focus and help you kind of map out what are you going to post about, what are you not going to post about, who are the people that you're targeting, all of these kind of things that will help you get your thoughts in order. Our blog, I know I say this myself, but we do have loads and loads of useful content on there. So you just go to Sukio and look for our blog. It's very easy to find. And we love sharing our knowledge, our learning, all of this kind of stuff. We're doing quite a lot of webinars. We've been asked to do webinars and workshops and that kind of thing over the last year. So we post the details there as well. So there's loads of stuff that's free that you can sign up for and come along to. One of the upsides of all this lockdown situation. So join the mailing list as well, and that'll keep you updated in what's coming up. And then this thing that we've got called Sukio School, which is online courses in digital marketing. So worth having a go at that as well.